The security lasers painted crimson patterns across the polished obsidian walls of the Drachnid Empire's most secure facility. Raven Mills pressed herself against a shadowy alcove, her chameleon suit shifting to match the darkness. The job had seemed simple enough: get in, steal the prototype weapon, get out. But nothing in her 15 years as a bounty hunter had prepared her for what she was about to discover. The facility's layout matched the stolen blueprints perfectly, too perfectly. Her client, a shadowy figure who called himself Mr. Shadow, had provided intelligence that was suspiciously accurate. Raven's instincts screamed trap, but the promised payment of 50 million credits had been too tempting to resist. 3 levels down, she encountered her first real obstacle. A biometric scanner guarded the entrance to the weapons vault, its purple beam sweeping the corridor in regular intervals. Raven pulled out a device she'd acquired from a tech broker on Europa, a neural pattern simulator that could theoretically fool any bioscan. As she approached the scanner, something unexpected happened. Instead of the usual red warning light, the scanner turned green, and the massive doors slid open with a soft hiss. "Well, that's not suspicious at all," Raven muttered, her modified neural implant recording everything for later analysis. The vault beyond was a cathedral of destruction, filled with weapons that could level cities. But her target wasn't among them. Instead, at the center of the room stood a stasis pod, its surface clouded with frost. Raven's heads-up display highlighted anomalous energy readings emanating from the pod. As she approached, the frost began to clear, revealing not a weapon, but a person. Male, humanoid, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. His eyes snapped open, they were entirely gold, without pupils or irises. "You're not Drachnid," he said, his voice resonating oddly in her mind rather than her ears. "And you're not a weapon," Raven replied, already calculating new escape routes. "I don't suppose you'd care to explain why someone wanted me to find you." The stranger's expression darkened. "Because they need a human to free me. The stasis field is keyed to human neural patterns. No other species can dash." Warning klaxons erupted throughout the facility, cutting him off. Red emergency lights began strobing, and Raven's neural implant detected multiple security teams converging on their position. "Time to go," Raven said, reaching for the stasis field controls. "I assume you'd rather not stay here." "The name's Theron," he said as the field disappeared. "And no, I wouldn't. But you should know, freeing me will make you a target of the entire Drachnid Empire." Raven helped him step out of the pod, noting how he moved with an otherworldly grace despite his apparent weakness. "Wouldn't be the first time I've annoyed an empire. Though usually I at least get paid for it." The vault's massive doors began to close. Raven pulled out her plasma pistol, its familiar weight reassuring in her hand. "Any chance those fancy golden eyes of yours can see a way out of here?" Theron placed a hand on the nearest wall, and his skin began to glow brighter. "Better. I can make one." The wall beneath his touch started to ripple like liquid metal, forming a tunnel that led upward at a steep angle. Raven's implant registered massive energy fluctuations as he manipulated the very structure of the material. "Ladies first," he said with a slight bow. Raven grinned despite herself. "Such a gentleman. But you're going first where I can keep an eye on you. I've had enough surprises for one day." They scrambled up the tunnel as the sound of weapon fire erupted behind them. Raven's implant highlighted the fastest route to her ship, docked in a supposedly abandoned maintenance bay. As they emerged into a higher level, she caught her first glimpse of their pursuers, Drachnid shock troops in their distinctive black armor, led by a figure whose presence made her blood run cold. Admiral Kresh, supreme commander of the Drachnid fleet, his scaled skin gleaming like polished onyx beneath his ceremonial armor. His reputation for cruelty was legendary even among his own people. "The human female is irrelevant," his voice boomed through the corridor. "Capture the Solari alive." "Solari?" Raven questioned as they ran. "As in the mythical race that disappeared 10,000 years ago." Myths are often based in truth, Theron replied, his breathing steady despite their pace. Just as the myth of human resilience is about to be tested. They burst onto a maintenance catwalk suspended over a massive hangar. Raven's ship, the Star Runner, sat below, its stealth systems making it appear as little more than a shadow among the machinery. "Please tell me you can fly," Raven said, shooting out the catwalk supports. "I can do better," Theron replied. As they fell, he grabbed her arm, and suddenly they were moving through space itself, reality bending around them until they landed softly in the Star Runner's cockpit. "Quantum displacement," he explained as Raven rushed to the controls. "A basic Solari ability, though it takes considerable energy." The ship's engines roared to life as Drachnid forces poured into the hangar. Admiral Kresha's voice came over all frequencies, "You cannot escape. The Solari belongs to the Empire. Surrender now, and your death will be quick." "Charming fellow," Raven muttered, engaging the ship's experimental phase drive. The hangar dissolved around them as they shifted partially out of normal space, passing through solid matter like smoke. Once they were safely in open space, Raven set a course for the outer rim and turned to her unexpected passenger. "All right, time for answers. Why does the Drachnid Empire have the last surviving member of a supposedly extinct species in a stasis pod? And why did my mysterious client want me to find you?" Theron's golden eyes met hers. "Because humanity is about to become extinct, unless we can stop it. The Drachnid Empire isn't just an empire, it's a weapon. And it's about to be used against Earth." Raven checked her ship's sensors, noting multiple Drachnid cruisers moving to intercept. "Well, that's just perfect. Any other apocalyptic news you'd like to share?" "Yes," Theron said grimly. "We have less than 72 hours to prevent it." The Star Runner limped through hyperspace, its phase drive sputtering after their desperate escape. In the ship's small medical bay, Theron sat perfectly still as Raven's medical scanner passed over his silvery skin. The device beeped in confusion, unable to make sense of his biology. "Your genetic structure is like nothing I've ever seen," Raven said, studying the readings. "It's almost as if your DNA is crystalline." Theron nodded, his golden eyes reflecting the scanner's blue light. "The Solari evolved differently than most species. We don't just store genetic information, we store memories, knowledge, entire histories passed down through generations." "Which explains why the Drachnids kept you in stasis," Raven said, shutting down the scanner. "You're not just the last Solari, you're a living library of their technology and secrets." A proximity alarm blared through the ship. Raven rushed to the cockpit, Theron close behind. The sensor display showed 3 Drachnid pursuit vessels emerging from hyperspace behind them. "They're tracking the quantum displacement signature from our escape," Theron explained. "My abilities leave traces that their sensors can detect." Raven's hands flew over the controls, plotting a new course. "Good to know. Any other surprises I should be aware of?" "Several. But first, we need to reach the Carina Nebula. There's something there you need to see." The ship shuddered as enemy fire began to streak past them. Raven engaged evasive maneuvers, diving into a dense asteroid field. "Kind of busy at the moment. Care to give me the highlights?" Theron placed his hand on the ship's control panel. His skin began to glow, and suddenly the Star Runner's engines surged with new power. The Drachnids aren't just an empire, they're an infection. A species corrupted by something ancient and malevolent. Something that sees humanity as both a threat and an opportunity. "And what's that got to do with me breaking you out?" Raven asked, skillfully weaving between asteroids as their pursuers struggled to keep pace. "Everything. The human brain has a unique quality, a resistance to certain forms of psychic manipulation. It's why the stasis pod could only be opened by a human. It's also why the Drachnids have been studying your species, preparing for a massive invasion." A blast from one of the pursuit ships caught their rear shields, causing the ship to spin. Raven cursed as she fought to regain control. Not if we warn Earth. Earth's already compromised, Theron cut in. Your mysterious client, Mr. Shadow. He's one of many Drachnid agents who've infiltrated key positions throughout human space. The invasion isn't coming, it's already begun. Raven processed this as she piloted them deeper into the asteroid field. So why hire me to free you? Seems counterproductive. Because they needed to know if the stasis pod could be opened at all. You were a test subject, meant to be eliminated once you succeeded or failed. His golden eyes narrowed. They didn't expect us to escape. Another proximity alert sounded, but this time from ahead of them. A massive Drachnid warship dropped out of hyperspace, its weapon ports glowing with charged energy. Speaking of the unexpected, Raven muttered, please tell me you've got another trick up your sleeve. Instead of answering, Theron closed his eyes in concentration. The ship's sensors suddenly went crazy, registering thousands of phantom signatures. Perfect duplicates of the Star Runner appeared throughout the asteroid field, each one indistinguishable from the real thing. Quantum duplicates, he explained, sweat beading on his forehead. Temporary, but convincing enough to confuse their targeting systems. Raven took full advantage of the confusion, plotting an impossible course through the narrowest gaps between asteroids. The pursuing ships fell behind, unable to match her piloting skills while trying to track multiple targets. The nebula, Theron insisted. We need to reach the coordinates I'm sending to your NAV system. The coordinates led to a seemingly empty region of space within the Carina Nebula. As they approached, Theron's skin began to glow brighter, and something massive shimmered into existence before them, a sprawling space station of clearly alien design, its crystalline structure resembling a massive snowflake. A Solari sanctuary, Theron said softly. Hidden and preserved for millennia, waiting for the right moment. Inside is everything we need to stop the Drachnid invasion, including proof that humanity isn't just capable of resisting them. You're capable of defeating them entirely. The sanctuary's docking bay opened like a blooming flower, drawing them in just as the Drachnid warship emerged from hyperspace behind them. But instead of firing, it held position, as if unable to perceive the station at all. They can't see it, Raven realized. Just like they couldn't see through your quantum duplicates. Solari technology operates on principles they can't comprehend, Theron confirmed. Which is why they want me so badly. But they never understood the most important thing about my people. And what's that? We were waiting for humanity. Everything we built, everything we preserved, it was all in preparation for this moment. He turned to her, his expression intense. You weren't just a test subject, Raven. You were the key we've been waiting for. As they docked inside the sanctuary, Raven's neural implant detected vast networks of energy and information flowing through the station's crystalline walls. The structure itself seemed alive, responding to their presence. What exactly am I the key to? She asked, though part of her already knew the answer. A weapon, Theron replied. But not like any weapon you've ever seen. One that requires both Solari knowledge and human consciousness to operate. One that can free not just humanity, but every species under Drachnid control. A holographic interface sprang to life around them, displaying star maps and tactical data in dizzying complexity. At the center was an image of Earth, surrounded by pulsing red indicators of Drachnid infiltration. We have 70 hours left, Theron said grimly. That's when their main fleet arrives, and the real invasion begins. Are you ready to help save your species? Raven checked her plasma pistol's charge and gave him a wry smile. Honestly? No. But it sounds like we don't have much choice. The sanctuary's systems hummed to life around them, responding to their combined presence. The war for humanity's future was about to begin, and its outcome would depend on an unlikely alliance between the last Solari and a human bounty hunter who'd stumbled into something far bigger than herself. Deep within the crystalline corridors of the Solari sanctuary, Raven watched as streams of data flowed through transparent walls like liquid light. Theron stood at a central console, his silvery skin resonating with the station's energy as he accessed ancient databases. "Your Mr. Shadow wasn't working alone," he said, projecting a holographic map of human space. Red dots appeared across multiple systems, marking Drachnid infiltration points. "They've spent decades placing agents in every major human institution." "That's not possible," Raven argued. "Our neural security protocols were designed by compromised scientists," a new voice interrupted. Both turned to see a holographic figure materializing nearby, a woman composed entirely of shifting code patterns. "I've been tracking their movements for years." "Raven, meet Naira," Theron said. "A highly advanced AI who helped preserve this sanctuary. She's been monitoring Drachnid activities throughout human space." Naira's form flickered as she displayed additional data streams. "I detected your escape from the Drachnid facility. You've accelerated their timeline. The invasion fleet is now approaching from multiple vectors." Before Raven could respond, proximity alerts blared throughout the sanctuary. But these weren't enemy signals. 3 ships emerged from hyperspace nearby, unmarked vessels of clearly human design. "Right on schedule," Naira said with satisfaction. "Commander Janeway and the Resistance have arrived." The ships docked smoothly, guided by the sanctuary's automated systems. Minutes later, Raven found herself face to face with the legendary leader of the Stellar Liberation Front. Commander Janeway was shorter than expected, her black combat armor bearing the scars of countless battles. Her cybernetic left eye glowed faintly as it scanned Raven and Theron. "So," Jean said, her voice carrying the hint of an old Earth Asian accent, "you're the ones who finally managed to wake our sleeping friend." "You knew about him?" Raven demanded. "We've known about the Solari for months," Jean replied, walking to the central console. "What we didn't know was how to free Theron without alerting the entire Drachnid fleet. Your freelance approach proved more effective than our careful planning. And more costly," Naira added, displaying footage of Drachnid ships destroying several human outposts. "They're no longer hiding their presence. Full invasion begins in 63 hours. Jin's cybernetic eye flashed as she absorbed the tactical data. "Then we strike first. Show them what you found, Naira." The AI projected a new series of images, massive structures hidden beneath the surface of multiple human worlds. "Drachnid psychic amplifiers," she explained. "Designed to enhance their control over conquered populations. Once activated, they'll be able to suppress human consciousness across entire continents." "But human minds are resistant," Raven said, remembering Theron's earlier words. "Individual minds, yes," Theron confirmed. "But these devices operate on a planetary scale. Even humanity's natural resistance won't withstand that level of psychic pressure. Unless we give them something stronger to resist with," Jean said meaningfully. Theron nodded. "The Solari developed technology to enhance human neural patterns, amplifying their natural resistance. But it requires direct neural interface with human subjects." "How many subjects?" Raven asked, already suspecting the answer. "Just one," Jean replied, turning to face her. "Someone whose neural patterns have already been modified by advanced technology. Someone with a top-of-the-line neural implant, specifically calibrated for interface with alien systems." Raven touched the implant at the base of her skull. "That's why Mr. Shadow chose me. He knew my implant was compatible." "Not just compatible," Naira corrected. "Perfect. Your particular model was designed by one of our undercover operatives. We've been preparing for this moment for years." A distant explosion rocked the sanctuary. Warning signals flashed as multiple Drachnid warships dropped out of hyperspace nearby. "They've tracked the Resistance ships," Naira reported. "Admiral Kresh is leading the assault personally." "Of course he is," Jean said grimly. "He's not just a military commander, he's their primary psychic conduit on this side of the galaxy. If we can eliminate him, their entire network will be disrupted." Theron's golden eyes locked onto Raven. The neural interface chamber is ready. But you need to understand, this isn't like using a normal implant. You'll be connecting directly with Solari consciousness technology. The experience will change you permanently. And if I refuse? Then humanity falls, Jean said simply. We've run every simulation, explored every alternative. This is our only chance. Another explosion shook the station. Through the crystalline walls, Raven could see Drachnid boarding craft approaching, their black holes standing out against the nebula's swirling colors. The sanctuary's defenses won't hold them for long, Naira warned. We need to decide now. Raven looked at each of them in turn, the last Solari, the resistance leader, the rogue AI. Then she thought of Earth, of billions of humans unaware that their minds were about to be enslaved by an ancient, malevolent force. Show me to this chamber, she said finally. But I want something in return. Name it, Jean replied. When this is over, assuming we survive, I want the truth. About everything. No more hidden agendas, no more manipulation. Deal? Jin's organic eye met Raven steadily. You have my word. As they hurried through the sanctuary's twisting corridors, Raven could hear the sounds of battle erupting behind them. The resistance fighters engaged the Drachnid boarding parties, buying them precious time. One more thing you should know, Theron said as they approached a massive doorway covered in glowing symbols. The interface process, it's never been tested on a human before. The odds of survival are. Don't tell me the odds, Raven interrupted. Just tell me this will hurt the bastards who've been planning to enslave my species. A rare smile crossed Theron's face. Oh, it will do more than hurt them. It will shatter their entire empire. The chamber door opened, revealing a space that seemed to exist somewhere between normal reality and something far stranger. At its center stood a crystalline pod similar to the one Theron had been imprisoned in, but this one hummed with living energy. Last chance to back out, Jean offered. Raven stepped toward the pod. Not a chance. Let's show these Drachnid bastards why they should have left humanity alone. As the pod closed around her, Raven's last conscious thought was a hope that she'd live long enough to collect on Jin's promise of truth. Then the interface activated, and her world dissolved into pure light and knowledge. Raven floated in an ocean of living light, her consciousness expanded beyond anything she'd ever imagined. The Solari interface had transformed her awareness, allowing her to perceive the quantum threads that connected all things. Through these threads, she could feel the Drachnid psychic network like a dark web stretching across human space. Remarkable, Theron's voice echoed through her enhanced consciousness. Your mind is adapting to the interface faster than we anticipated. Through the crystalline walls of the sanctuary, Raven could see the battle raging outside with newfound clarity. Resistance ships danced through space, engaging Drachnid vessels in desperate combat. But she could also see something else, patterns of energy flowing between the Drachnid ships, all leading back to Admiral Kresha's flagship. The psychic network, she realized. It's not just for controlling populations. It's how they coordinate their entire fleet. Correct, Naira's digital presence flickered through the interface. Admiral Kresh serves as their primary nexus in this sector. But be careful, he can sense your presence now that you're connected to the network. As if summoned by Naira's warning, a dark consciousness pressed against Raven's enhanced awareness. Admiral Kresha's mental voice boomed through the quantum threads. So, the humans have learned to use Solari technology. Impressive, but futile. You cannot hope to match my centuries of psychic experience. Raven felt his power pushing against her defenses, trying to overwhelm her consciousness. But something unexpected happened. Instead of crushing her, Kresha's attack seemed to strengthen her connection to the interface. Commander Jean, she called out through the sanctuary's communication system. I need you to launch an assault on Kresha's flagship. Not to destroy it, just keep him busy. Already on it, Jin's voice replied. Through the quantum sight, Raven watched as Resistance fighters began a coordinated attack on the massive Drachnid vessel. Theron, Raven continued, the interface is showing me something about the Drachnid evolution. Their entire species, they weren't always like this, were they? No, Theron's presence moved closer to her in the quantum space. They were peaceful once, before the corruption took them. What else do you see? Raven's enhanced consciousness dove deeper into the psychic network, following threads of connection backward through time. The corruption, it's not complete. There are gaps in their control, moments when the original Drachnid consciousness surfaces. Which is why they need the amplifiers, Naira added. Their hold on reality itself is fragile. They maintain it through constant psychic reinforcement. A blast rocked the sanctuary, disrupting Raven's concentration momentarily. Through normal space, she could see Drachnid boarding parties breaking through the station's outer defenses. We're running out of time, Jean reported. If you're going to do something, do it now. Raven focused her enhanced awareness, understanding flowing through her like electricity. The human neural pattern, it's not just resistant to their control. It's fundamentally incompatible with the corruption itself. That's why they needed to invade instead of simply infecting us like they did the Drachnids. Can you use that? Theron asked. Better, Raven smiled within the interface. I can amplify it. Naira, I need you to modify the sanctuary's quantum field generators. We're going to broadcast a human neural pattern through their entire network. That's impossible, Kresha's voice boomed through the quantum space. You would need more power than a single human mind could generate. Raven interrupted. Good thing I'm not alone then. Through her enhanced perception, she could feel the consciousness of every Resistance fighter in the fleet. More than that, she could sense the original Drachnid minds struggling beneath the corruption's surface. Theron, remember how you created quantum duplicates during our escape? I need you to do something similar, but with my neural pattern. Understanding dawned in the Solari's golden eyes. Using the sanctuary's crystals as amplifiers. Yes, it could work. Naira, divert all power to the quantum field generators. Jean, have your forces fall back to these coordinates. And Theron. I need you to link directly with my consciousness. This is going to take everything we've got. As the various pieces fell into place, Admiral Kresh seemed to finally understand their plan. His psychic presence slammed against Raven's defenses with renewed fury. You cannot hope to overcome centuries of corruption with a single human consciousness. Watch me, Raven replied, and activated the quantum field. The sanctuary's crystalline structure began to pulse with blinding energy as Raven's neural pattern was amplified and broadcast through the Drachnid psychic network. Her consciousness, enhanced by Solari technology and supported by Theron's power, rippled outward like a shockwave. Where it touched corrupted Drachnid minds, it created discord in their psychic symphony. The human pattern, so fundamentally different from the corruption's influence, acted like a key unlocking long-buried memories. Their original consciousness, Theron observed in awe. It's reasserting itself. Through the quantum sight, Raven watched as confusion spread through the Drachnid fleet. Ships began breaking formation as their crews struggled with suddenly resurfaced memories and identities. No. Kresha's psychic scream echoed through the network. I will not allow this. The Admiral's flagship turned its main weapons on the sanctuary, preparing to fire. But before it could, something unprecedented happened. Its own crew, their original consciousness partially restored, began fighting against their corrupted commander. Jean, Raven called out, her voice strained from the effort of maintaining the broadcast. Now would be a good time for that attack run. The Resistance fleet moved as one, concentrating their fire on Kresha's flagship. But it wasn't their weapons that decided the battle. It was the growing wave of restored consciousness spreading through the Drachnid ranks. As Raven's amplified neural pattern continued to disrupt the corruption's hold, she glimpsed something through the quantum sight, a vast, dark intelligence lurking at the edges of known space, its connection to this reality maintained solely through the Drachnid psychic network. There, she said to Theron. That's the source. The original corruption. Can you sever its connection? Not alone, Raven replied. But I'm not alone anymore, am I? She could feel them all now, the resistance fighters, the awakening Drachnids, even the sanctuary's crystalline consciousness supporting her enhanced awareness. Together, they pushed against the dark intelligence's influence. The resulting psychic backlash nearly overwhelmed her, but through it all, Raven held on to one simple truth: the human mind, in all its chaotic glory, was stronger than any corruption. And now, finally, she understood why the Solari had waited for humanity. They weren't just resistant to control. They were catalysts for freedom. The sanctuary blazed like a newborn star, channeling unprecedented levels of energy through its crystalline structure. Within the interface chamber, Raven's consciousness stretched across the quantum network, her enhanced human neural pattern continuing to disrupt the corruption's hold on the Drachnid fleet. But the dark intelligence she'd glimpsed wasn't retreating without a fight. The corruption is attempting to reconsolidate its control, Naira reported, her digital presence flickering through the overloaded systems. It's accessing deeper protocols within the Drachnid psychic network. Through her quantum-enhanced vision, Raven watched as Admiral Kresha's flagship began to transform. Its hull writhed like living tissue, revealing the true nature of Drachnid technology, a hybrid of machine and corrupted biological matter. The ship is becoming a physical extension of the corruption, Theron explained, his own consciousness intertwined with Raven's through the interface. Kresh is channeling its power directly. The transformed flagship turned its weapons on the sanctuary, but the shots went wild as the crew continued to resist their commander's control. On the quantum level, Raven could see Kresha's consciousness fragmenting, torn between the corruption's influence and his species' original nature. Commander Jean, Raven called out, her voice strained from maintaining the neural broadcast. We need to end this now. Target these coordinates. She transmitted a series of quantum-level weak points in the flagship's structure. Those points don't exist in normal space, Jean replied, her cybernetic eye probably struggling to process the data. Trust me. The corruption exists partially outside our reality. So do those weak points. The resistance fleet moved into position, their weapons recalibrated based on Raven's insights. But before they could fire, Admiral Kresh made his final move. If we cannot have this reality, his psychic voice boomed through the network, then none shall have it. The flagship systems began a cascade overload, its corrupted matter preparing to tear a hole in spacetime itself. The resulting rift would destroy everything within several light-years. He's trying to create a quantum singularity, Naira warned. The sanctuary won't survive the gravitational forces. Raven pushed her enhanced consciousness to its limits, searching for a solution through the quantum threads. That's when she felt it, a resonance between her human neural pattern and the deepest levels of Solari technology. Theron, she called out. The sanctuary, it's not just a station, is it? No, he replied softly. It's a seed. The last seed of my people's civilization, waiting for the right moment to bloom. Understanding flowed through her like lightning. Naira, divert all power from the neural broadcast to the sanctuary's core systems. Jean, get your fleet to minimum safe distance. What are you planning? Jean demanded. Something impossible, Raven replied with a grim smile. Theron, I need you to help me activate the sanctuary's true form. And Naira, thank you for keeping watch all these years. The AI's presence brushed against her consciousness. It has been an honor. As the resistance fleet retreated, Raven and Theron joined their enhanced awareness completely. Through their combined consciousness, they touched the sanctuary's deepest protocols. The station's crystalline structure began to shift, revealing its true nature, a quantum-level reality engine, designed to rewrite the very fabric of spacetime. The corruption exists partially outside normal space, Raven explained as the transformation began. So let's change the nature of space itself. The sanctuary's entire structure collapsed inward, converting its physical mass into pure quantum potential. At the same time, Kresha's flagship reached critical overload, its corrupted systems tearing open the barrier between realities. In that moment of dimensional instability, Raven acted. Using the sanctuary's power and her unique human consciousness as a template, she began rewriting the quantum laws governing this region of space. The corruption's extradimensional influence, which had sustained its power for millennia, suddenly found itself unable to maintain its hold on normal spacetime. The effect rippled outward at faster-than-light speeds. Everywhere it touched, corrupted Drachnid technology began to transform, reverting to its original uncorrupted state. The Dark Intelligence's connection to this reality, maintained through the psychic network, started to dissolve. It's working, Theron observed in awe. The corruption is being forced out of our dimensional plane entirely. Through the quantum sight, Raven watched as Admiral Kresha's flagship collapsed in on itself, the corruption's influence unraveling. But she also saw something else, the original Drachnid consciousness emerging from centuries of slavery, their true nature finally free to resurface. The price was high. The sanctuary, that last remnant of Solari civilization, had sacrificed itself to rewrite reality. And Raven's consciousness, forever altered by the interface, would never perceive the universe the same way again. As the quantum transformation completed, normal space reasserted itself. The Resistance fleet emerged from their safe distance to find the Drachnid ships powered down, their crews unconscious but freed from corruption. Admiral Kresha's flagship had disappeared entirely, along with the sanctuary. In the debris field where the sanctuary had been, a single ship drifted, the Star Runner. Inside its cockpit, Raven slowly opened her eyes, her neural implant now permanently modified by the experience. Beside her, Theron's silvery skin had taken on a more subdued tone, his connection to his people's technology forever changed by their shared ordeal. Did it work? Jin's voice crackled through the ship's comm. Raven checked her neural readings, sensing the quantum echoes of their actions rippling through space. The corruption is gone from this reality. The Drachnids are free. And the invasion? Won't be happening. Though we might want to prepare for a lot of very confused Drachnid refugees trying to understand what happened to the last few centuries. I think humanity can handle that, Jean replied with a hint of pride. We're good at helping others rebuild. Theron turned to Raven, his golden eyes reflecting the starlight. My people waited millennia for humanity to evolve enough to help us combat the corruption. But I don't think any of us expected quite this outcome. That's humanity for you, Raven said with a tired smile. We specialize in the unexpected. She looked out at the transformed space before them, where ships from both fleets were already moving to assist their Drachnid counterparts. So, about that promise of truth. I believe, Jin's voice carried a smile of its own, we're going to need a lot of drinks for that conversation. As the Star Runner moved to join the combined fleet, Raven reflected on the changes the last few days had brought. The universe was different now, transformed by the combination of human consciousness and Solari technology. But looking at the ships working together in the debris field, she knew it was a better different. Humanity had proven itself more than just resistant to corruption. They had shown themselves to be agents of positive change, capable of rewriting the very rules of reality when pushed to their limits. You know, she said to Theron, for a simple bounty hunting job, this turned out to be a lot more complicated than expected. Would you have taken the job if you'd known the truth? Raven thought about Earth, now safe from invasion. About the Drachnids, freed from centuries of corruption. About the new future they'd all face together. Probably, she admitted. But I would have charged a lot more. Their laughter, human and Solari together, echoed through the Star Runner's cockpit as they flew toward an uncertain but hopeful future. The price of freedom had been high, but the reward, a universe free from ancient corruption, was worth every cost.